It was well past midnight. In the quiet pediatric wing of St. Augustine Hospital, the only sounds were the steady beeping of heart monitors and the faint whisper of winter wind brushing against the window panes. In room 304, a dim yellow light cast a soft glow over the hospital bed, where a 6-year-old girl lay curled up tightly, gripping the edge of her blanket as if it were her last tether to safety. Her skin was pale, her eyes wide and unblinking, fixed on the ceiling above. She was scheduled for open heart surgery at dawn. "I don't want to sleep," her voice trembled, barely a whisper. "What if I don't wake up?" Claire Bennett, a 25-year-old nurse, sat quietly beside her. Her light brown hair was tied in a messy ponytail, tousled from a long shift. She pulled the chair closer, her expression tender but shadowed by something old and familiar. "Lily," Claire said softly, gently brushing a strand of hair from the girl's damp cheek. "You're braver than you think." Lily shook her head. "I'm scared. My mom's not here. What if my heart just stops?" Claire paused, her throat tightening with the weight of a memory. She had once been that child in a hospital bed, on a night not unlike this. She remembered the cold sheets, the fading sound of her mother's voice, and the empty silence that followed. Her mother had never come back. Slowly, she reached for the bag by her feet. Her fingers found what she hadn't touched in years, a doll, soft from time, its pink dress faded, one eye a mismatched button, and an ear stitched so many times it no longer sat quite right. Claire said gently, "This is for you, sweetie." Lily's gaze shifted to the doll, her teary eyes curious now. Claire placed it carefully in her small hands. "My mom gave it to me the night before my surgery. She said as long as I held her, I wouldn't be alone." "Is she magic?" Lily whispered. Claire smiled, her voice catching. "Maybe not the kind with wands, but she helped me be brave when I couldn't be." Lily pulled the doll to her chest. For the first time that night, her breathing calmed. "Can she stay with me tonight?" Claire nodded. "She's yours now, at least until you're strong enough to give her back." And as if by magic, Lily closed her eyes, surrendering to sleep in the safety she hadn't felt in days. Claire sat still, watching over her, unaware that just beyond the glass wall of the hallway, someone had seen it all. Outside room 304, the hallway light cast a pale glow across the dark fabric of the man standing motionless, one hand resting gently against the metal door frame. Jonathan Hale, 36, CEO of a leading tech conglomerate, was not a man known for sentiment. He lived in a world of numbers, negotiations, and structure, where feelings had long since been folded away into tidy compartments. And yet, at this moment, watching through the glass as a young nurse leaned forward to place an old, worn doll into his daughter's hands, every principle he had built his world upon felt irrelevant. He had come straight from a late meeting, assuming Lily would already be asleep. He hadn't expected to find this. Claire, unaware of being observed, softly humming a lullaby with no lyrics, pulling the blanket higher over Lily's shoulders and pressing a kiss to her forehead, like a promise whispered without words. Jonathan swallowed hard. Something in his chest tightened, a sensation both foreign and painfully familiar. Tenderness. Since losing his wife 3 years ago, his life had narrowed to 2 priorities: work and Lily. He had hired private nurses, the best pediatric specialists, caregivers with impeccable resumes. They were competent, efficient, well compensated. But none of them had ever given Lily their only comfort. None of them had sat by her bed to chase away the fear. None had stayed past their shift simply to hold a frightened child's hand. Claire had done all of that, not out of obligation, not for recognition, but because she chose to. His phone buzzed in his coat pocket. An email. A pending contract. He glanced down, then locked the screen and tucked it away. For the first time in years, it didn't feel as urgent as staying just a few minutes longer. Inside the room, Lily was fast asleep. Claire sat quietly beside her, fingers tugging absent-mindedly at the hem of her scrubs. There was an emptiness where the doll used to rest, but somehow Her heart didn't feel empty at all. Jonathan lingered for a moment more, then slowly turned and walked down the hall. But he knew the image of that room, of his daughter wrapped around an old doll, and the woman who had given away the last piece of her past, would stay with him long after he left. The next morning, the air inside room 304 felt thinner, more fragile, like each breath had to be measured. The surgery was over, but its shadow lingered. No longer an urgent fear, but a quiet waiting for signs of healing, one heartbeat at a time. Claire stood at the foot of the bed, chart in hand, eyes steady on Lily's soft, rising chest. Thin tubes trailed from the child's arm. Her face was pale, but peaceful. To Claire, the very fact that Lily was still here, still breathing, still Lily, felt like a miracle. By late morning, Lily stirred. Claire was already there, crouched beside the bed with a small bowl of applesauce and a spoon with a cartoon bear on the handle. "Hey, sunshine," she whispered. "Still with me?" Lily blinked slowly, then gave a faint nod. Her lips quivered. "Think you can try a bite?" Claire asked gently. "Only if you stay," she murmured. Claire smiled. "I'm not going anywhere." She fed her slowly, patiently, wiping her mouth with soft care. All the while, Claire hummed a quiet tune. No words, just sound. Something to make the sterile white of the room feel a little more human. Later that afternoon, Claire returned with a thin paperback. She sat on the edge of the bed without disturbing Lily. "Want to hear a story?" she asked. Lily looked up, her eyes a little brighter. "Only if you read it like it's a movie." Claire laughed. "Deal?" She read with voices and dramatic pauses, making the funny parts silly enough to draw the softest giggle from Lily, her first laugh since before the surgery. When the story ended, Lily looked at Claire. "Do you think my heart's fixed now?" Claire placed a hand over hers. "I think your heart's braver than ever." Every hour, Claire checked vitals, adjusted the IV, brushed Lily's hair back gently. When Lily cried from pain, Claire didn't flinch. She sat beside her, holding her hand. "It's okay to cry," she said softly. "It just means you're still fighting." Jonathan came and went in silence. He still stayed behind the glass, still spoke little, but each time he lingered a little longer. On the second evening, he stayed for quite a while. Claire was tucking Lily in, placing the worn doll gently beneath her arm, smoothing its tiny dress with her thumb. Lily mumbled something. Claire bent close to listen, nodded and brushed her cheek. Jonathan's hands tightened in his coat pockets. He had hired so many people, nurses, nannies, therapists, all highly trained, well paid, but none had knelt beside his daughter just to hear her whisper. None had stayed late to make her laugh. Claire, with her worn shoes and shadowed eyes, had given more than any contract ever promised. That night, in the break room, Claire sat alone with a paper cup of cold tea and half a sandwich wrapped in foil. She didn't eat, just stared at it for a while before wrapping it again. She pulled her backpack closer, digging out a small lunchbox with leftover rice and steamed vegetables from the pediatric kitchen. Jonathan saw it from down the hall. He didn't know what struck him more, how tirelessly she worked without thanks, or that his daughter now called her Miss C, a name she had made up while sleepy. The days that followed moved gently, quietly. In the sterile air of the hospital, filled with the scent of disinfectant and the hum of machines, something subtle began to shift. Not in the stitched wounds or IV drips, but in hearts slowly, silently unfolding. Jonathan Hale, once content to hover in silence behind the hallway glass, began to do something unexpected. He started stepping into the room. At first, it was just brief hallway exchanges. "How is she today?" he asked, voice even, eyes looking anywhere but at Claire. Claire, always composed, answered with soft steadiness. "He ate a bit more this morning, asked if I'd braid her hair later. That's a good sign." Jonathan nodded, his hands tucked deep in his coat pockets. "Thank you," he said, and this time he meant it. Later that week, while Lily napped, he found Claire wiping down a table in the break room. Her sleeves were pushed up, her hair tied in a loose bun, and a faint coffee stain clung to the edge of her name tag. She looked up when he entered, a flicker of surprise, then a small smile. "Mr. Hale," she greeted. "Jonathan," he replied, slower than usual. "I just wanted to thank you for everything you've done for my daughter. I've seen it. You've been remarkable." Claire smiled modestly. "She's strong, brave. I'm just glad I get to be here." Jonathan studied her face for a moment. There was warmth there, yes, but something deeper too. Something heavier. Something earned. "Can I ask you something?" he said. She nodded. "That doll, the one you gave her, it looked old. Was it yours?" Claire lowered herself into a chair and gestured for him to do the same. Her voice softened. "Yes. My mom gave it to me when I was 5, the night before she died of cancer." Jonathan went still. Claire continued, her voice quiet. "I was scared, alone in a hospital bed. My mom told me the doll would protect me when she couldn't, and after she was gone, it followed me through foster homes, birthdays no one remembered, nights without lullabies. It was all I had left of her." She stared down at her hands. "But when I saw your daughter afraid, I knew. That doll had done its part for me. Maybe it was time she did the same for someone else." Jonathan couldn't find words at first. Then finally, "She's being comforted the right way." Claire blinked, surprised by the softness in his voice. "Thank you," she whispered. At that moment, the shuffle of small feet interrupted them. Lily stood in the doorway in heart-mapper pajamas, blanket dragging behind her, eyes sleepy but searching, until they landed on Claire. "Miss C," she said with a sleepy smile. Claire stood up immediately. "Hey, Sunshine, what's wrong?" Lily walked over, arms wide, and wrapped them around Claire's waist. "I dreamed you weren't here," she whispered. "But you are." Claire knelt to return the hug, her face tender with affection. Jonathan watched, not as a father, not as a CEO, but as a man witnessing something sacred. Lily pulled back, looked at her father, then back at Claire. "She's my best friend," she said proudly. "Forever." Claire smiled, blinking fast. "That's the best title I've ever had." And Jonathan felt something inside shift. Not grief, not longing, but a connection quietly, undeniably taking root. 2 days later, the nurse's break room began like any other morning. Quiet, with the faint scent of weak coffee and the hum of overhead lights. Claire arrived early, as always, rubbing her neck from a long night, dark circles still soft beneath her eyes. She stepped into the room and immediately stopped. There, on the center table, lay a small gift, carefully wrapped in cream-colored tissue paper, tied with a simple red ribbon. Beside it, a folded note, unsigned. Claire glanced around. No one else was there. She sat slowly, hands moving gently as she untied the ribbon and peeled back the paper. Inside was a doll. Not her doll, that was impossible, but so close it stole her breath. A hand-stitched pink dress, a button eye, a slightly crooked ear sewn in with such precision it made her chest ache. Even the awkward stitches on the arm had been carefully recreated. Claire reached out, her fingers trembling as she picked it up. She stared at it like it was a memory made real again. Not a replacement, but a whisper. "I understand." She unfolded the note. The handwriting was strong, precise. "Thank you for bringing joy to my daughter, and for reminding me that sometimes the ones who give the most are the ones with nothing left to keep. A grateful father." Claire sat motionless, the doll resting in her hands. Her heart softened. Not because of the gift itself, but because of the recognition. Because someone had seen her. Not for her skill, not for her training, but for what she gave away and how much it cost her. Then, the emotion welled suddenly. She pressed the doll gently to her chest, closing her eyes, a single tear landing on its perfectly clean dress. No one, not since her mother, had done something like this for her, thought through every detail, every memory, every flaw, and remade it lovingly with unfamiliar hands. And yet, as beautiful as it wasn't her doll. It couldn't be. She sat down slowly, holding the new doll like something sacred. And yet, somewhere inside her still flickered the image of the original, the one that had walked through storms with her, now resting in someone else's arms. And in that quiet morning moment, Claire understood. This wasn't just a gift, it was acknowledgement, a quiet way of saying, I see you, and I remember what you gave. A week had passed since the surgery. The air in room 34 had changed, no longer heavy with fear, but delicate with hope. The monitors had been removed, the IVs gone. Lily could sit up now. Color had returned to her cheeks. And that morning she finished a plate of tiny pancakes, her request. Claire stood beside the bed, zipping up Lily's pale pink jacket. You're almost ready to go home, she said, brushing a hand gently through Lily's hair. Lily looked up, eyes wide. Really home? Claire nodded, her heart tugging unexpectedly. I'm going to miss you. Lily didn't answer right away. She turned to the small suitcase sitting on the chair. Nestled between pajamas and picture books was the old doll, quietly waiting like she always had. Claire's throat tightened. Lily opened the suitcase, lifted the doll, held her close for a moment. Then, with a serious little walk, she stepped toward Claire and held the doll up between them. I want you to have her back, she said softly. Claire blinked. Are you sure? Lily nodded. I'm not sick anymore. And I'm not scared, she helped me. But I think she was yours first, and I think she missed you. Claire sank to her knees, hands trembling as she accepted the doll, the one she had let go of without expecting it to return. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for taking such good care of her. Lily leaned in, wrapping her arms around Claire's neck. You're my real nurse, my real mommy, and my best friend. Claire held her tightly, tears spilling freely now, no longer needing to be wiped away. Behind them, unnoticed at first, Jonathan Hale stood in the doorway. He didn't speak. He didn't step in. He simply watched. He watched his daughter hand back the very thing that had brought her comfort, not because she had to, but because she knew it would bring someone else joy. He saw the way Claire received it, not like a returned possession, but like a piece of her past brought back, not with grief, but with grace. His chest ached. For years, he had believed love must be earned, that safety came through contracts and security systems, that healing was clinical. But what he witnessed now was something else entirely. It was giving, that cost something. Claire stood slowly, brushing a tear from her cheek. When she turned, she found Jonathan watching her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he stepped forward, voice low. At doll, she's been through a lot. Claire looked down. She's held me through the worst parts of my life, she said. I didn't think I'd ever see her again. And now? Jonathan asked. Claire looked up, her voice quiet but sure. Now she's more than memory, she's part of a story that's still going. Jonathan nodded, his expression unreadable, but in his eyes something stirred, something soft, something real. After that afternoon in the hospital, everything unfolded like a gentle dream. Lily was discharged the next morning. Claire was the one pushing the wheelchair, her hand gently resting on the girl's shoulder as they left the third-floor hallway, a place that had witnessed countless sleepless nights, fears and fragile hopes. Jonathan followed behind, silent. No one said much, but something had changed between the three of them. It was lighter, closer. The wheelchair stopped at the pickup area. A familiar black SUV waited, the back seat already prepared with a small pillow and Lily's favorite stuffed animal. Claire bent down to fasten her seatbelt, and Lily clutched her hand, refusing to let go. Can you come with me? She whispered, wide eyes filled with longing. Claire looked up at Jonathan. He wasn't surprised. He simply nodded, as if this had always been the plan. I'll ride with you for the first part of the trip, Claire replied with a smile. And after that, we'll see each other again, Jonathan added, if you're willing to invite Miss Claire to dinner. Lily squealed in delight, and Claire laughed, nodding gently. You're the one in charge of that? I'm the boss of the first dinner at home, Lily declared proudly. The car began to move. All the way home, Claire sat beside Lily, listening to her talk about the things she wanted to do. Plant lavender, paint a big picture to hang in the kitchen, and learn to make the cake Claire had once told her about. Jonathan drove in silence, but it was a peaceful silence, no longer laced with tension. When they arrived at the house, Claire stood on the porch steps, not yet ready to go inside. "I should let you two rest," she said softly, her hand gently brushing the doll box in her purse. Jonathan stepped closer. "Tomorrow night," he said, "if you're free, shall we keep our promise?" Claire looked at him, her gaze gentle but hesitant. "Just a dinner?" "It can start that way," he replied. "And then you can decide what comes next." She looked down, smiling faintly. "Tomorrow night," she said, 3 plays. Then she turned and walked toward the waiting taxi, but this time, her heart wasn't heavy. In her hand was the little doll, a symbol of a memory that had begun to heal. And in her heart was the gaze of a man who had started to let go of logic in order to love. That afternoon, the spring breeze carried a softness through the quiet, tree-lined neighborhood. Claire stood in front of the house, not a towering mansion like she might have expected from a tech CEO, but a warm modern home with wooden steps and lavender blooming under the windows. It looked lived in, loved. She adjusted the hem of her borrowed dress. Soft, simple, nothing fancy. Her hands were empty, except for a quiet nervousness tucked in her chest. The door swung open before she could even ring the bell. Lily burst into view in a flowery dress, her energy a whirlwind of joy. "Miss C," she squealed, throwing her arms around Claire's waist like they'd been apart for ages. Claire laughed, bending down. "Looks like someone's been waiting for me." "I set the table," Lily beamed. 3 plates. Mommy says that's called manifesting." From behind her, Jonathan appeared. Gone was the suit. In its place, a navy sweater with rolled sleeves. He smiled. Not the kind reserved for meetings, but something softer. "Come in," he said, eyes steady on hers. Inside, the house glowed with warmth. The faint scent of herbs and roasted vegetables drifted from the kitchen. The dining table sat by a window, touched by the last golden light of day. On it were 3 plates, 3 glasses, and a single flickering candle. But what stopped Claire in her tracks was the small box on her chair, neatly wrapped with twine, a pressed flower tucked under the knot. She looked to Jonathan. He nodded gently. "Go ahead." Claire sat and opened it slowly. Inside was a wooden hair clip, delicately carved into the shape of a little doll with outstretched arms, like she was always ready for a hug. The wood was smooth, the tiny face imperfect but full of care. Claire froze. "I used to have one just like this," she whispered. "My mom made it before she got sick. I wore it for every picture day." Jonathan nodded. "I asked a friend to recreate it. Lily remembered every detail. She said it made her feel brave, so she said, 'We should get Miss C another one, so she can feel brave too.'" Claire swallowed hard, her fingers trembling as they traced the carved lines. From across the table, Lily rested her chin on her hands. "Daddy says you should eat dinner with us every night. I think so too." Claire looked at Jonathan. He didn't flinch. He didn't look away. He simply reached across the table. She placed her hand in his, tentatively at first, then firmly. No grand declarations, no speeches, just 3 people, a simple meal, roasted chicken, soft rolls, mismatched glasses, and laughter that felt like it had always belonged there. Lily leaned her head against Claire's arm and whispered, "I hope you stay forever." Claire kissed the top of her head. "Me too." Later, as they stood at the sink together, washing dishes side by side, Jonathan spoke, his voice low but sure. "I don't want to rush anything, but this house, since you've been here, it feels different." Claire glanced at him, eyes shining. "So does mine." 1 year later, everything had changed. The house was still small, 3 bedrooms, a sunlit kitchen, and the faint scent of toast mixed with lemon soap in the mornings. But within its walls, in every footstep and whisper, there was something new, belonging. Claire stood at the stove, flipping pancakes in a warm pan. Her hair was tied back loosely, her shirt worn in and soft. Behind her, Lily sat at the kitchen table, legs swinging as she sang a children's tune between spoonfuls of cereal, her spoon tapping rhythmically against the bowl. From the hallway, Jonathan appeared, hair tousled, carrying 3 neatly folded napkins. He paused, watching his daughter, a faint smile curving when he noticed her mismatched socks again. No one spoke at first, but the silence didn't need to be filled. These weren't perfect mornings, they were simply theirs. "Daddy, can I show her now?" Lily called suddenly, eyes bright. Claire turned from the stove, brow raised. "Show who what, sweetheart?" Lily hopped off her chair and disappeared into the next room, returning moments later with something cradled carefully in both hands. It was the old doll, faded, mended, but clean and gently loved. Lily carried it into Claire and Jonathan's shared bedroom and placed it between 2 framed photos on Claire's bookshelf. One of the 3 of them on a beach, the other of Claire in her nurse's uniform on the day of her promotion to head nurse. "She lives here now," Lily said proudly. "This is her house too. I gave her the best spot where the sun hits in the morning." Claire walked over, kneeling beside her. "Thank you," she whispered. "I think she likes it here," Lily said with a nod. Claire looked up, catching Jonathan's eyes as he stood in the doorway, watching quietly. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His face held a look that could only be described as full. That evening, when Claire came home from a long hospital shift, the house smelled of cinnamon and something sweet baking. A slightly crooked, hand-painted banner hung above the living room window. "Happy Birthday, Claire." No balloons, no crowd, no noise. Just a table set for 3, a carrot cake, and Jonathan nervously adjusting his collar. Dinner was Claire's favorite pasta, cooked by Jonathan with more heart than skill, a little salty but eaten entirely. Lily insisted on singing "Happy Birthday" twice, once the regular way and once in her own silly remix version. Claire laughed so hard she had to wipe away tears. And in that moment, between giggles, flickering candles, and the old doll sitting quietly on the bookshelf, she realized something. That small thing she gave away, the one she thought she had lost forever, had somehow led her here. To a home, to a family, to a brand new life. The birthday dinner ended with 3 empty plates, a few crumbs of carrot cake, and Lily running off to change into her pajamas, the ones with moons and stars printed across the sleeves. Claire reached for her glass of water when Jonathan stood. He quietly moved around the table, stopping beside her. In his hand was a small velvet box, deep blue, perfectly sized for the palm. Claire froze. There was no spotlight, no string quartet, no dramatic kneel in the middle of a 5-star restaurant, only the soft kitchen light and the sound of Lily's feet padding down the hallway. "I don't have the words to match everything you've given me," Jonathan said, voice steady and low. "But I've been thinking a lot about that doll. About how you let her go without knowing if she'd ever come back. You gave her away because my daughter needed her more." Claire opened her mouth, but no words came. Jonathan opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, with a single stone carved into the shape of a doll. Not flashy, not extravagant, just a gold band holding a memory in its arms. "I can't give you your past back," he said, "but if you let me, I'd like to build a future with you, one with 3 chairs at every dinner, with lights always on when you get home, with no one ever left behind." Claire covered her mouth with both hands, tears running down her cheeks. Her heart pounded, not from shock, but from the way something long held inside finally broke open. From down the hall, Lily peeked in, eyes wide, bouncing in place on her bare feet. "Mommy, say yes. Say yes now." Claire laughed through her tears. She looked at Jonathan, a man who once hid behind glass walls, now offering her not just a ring, but a home. "Yes," she whispered. "I do." In that moment, she wasn't saying yes to a ring. She was saying yes to home. Jonathan rose and gently slipped the ring onto her finger. Lily ran in and wrapped herself around both of them, giggling. They stood there, wrapped in one another, in the glow of soft kitchen lights and the scent of cinnamon lingering in the air. That night, Claire sat curled on the couch, Lily nestled in her lap, her head resting on Claire's shoulder, while Jonathan's arm draped around them both. She looked up at the doll on the shelf, the one that had once been all she had. Now, it was just one piece of something much bigger, a family, not born of blood, but built on kindness, on courage, and on love that expected nothing in return. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the living room windows, tracing golden lines across the worn rug and catching the glass of the bookshelf just right. The old doll still rested there, nestled between the photo of the three of them on the beach and a picture of Claire in her nurse's uniform, smiling wide. Everything was small: the house, the table for three, the faint scent of cinnamon that lingered in the air. But inside that simplicity lived something Claire once never dared to hope for: the feeling of staying, not being left, not saying goodbye. No longer the girl with a suitcase always half-zipped. Claire woke each morning knowing someone was waiting. There were kitchen lights, Lily's off-key singing in the bathroom, Jonathan's terrible coffee. Always made, always on time. 1 year ago, it all began with a frayed doll and a frightened little girl. Claire had given away the last piece she had from her mother, never knowing it would lead her back to a life she thought was lost. As she watched Lily curled by the window, book in hand, one ponytail askew, feet swinging gently, Claire felt her heart still. Like calm water, Jonathan approached, carrying 2 mugs of tea. Without a word, he placed one in her hands, then sat beside her. No speeches, no grandness. Real love often arrived like this: quiet, enduring, like the doll who stayed. Claire squeezed his hand gently. "I think my mom would be happy to know..." "To know what?" he asked. "That her doll found a new home. And so did I." They sat there, side by side, asking for nothing more. And in the sunlight, the warmth of tea, and the soft footsteps of a little girl padding toward them, Claire understood something. Love doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with something small, a gift not asked to be returned, a person willing to stay just a little longer, an old doll, a nurse who chose to stay, and a family no one expected, but who needed each other more than they knew, and a family born not by blood, but by choice, and the courage to love anyway.